You are greeted by an impeccably dressed man with a perfectly straight back. An Arbutus scale emblem is embroidered on his clothes. Glory to House von Valancius. We are honored to welcome you to the Palace of Justice, your lordship. Do you wish to proceed to the session at once, or will you grace me with any questions I might humbly answer? Huh. So this is the Palace of Justice. Okay. This is a bit more what I was expecting. Very subdued, very subtle. Yes, indeed. This is the Palace of Justice, the 9th residence of the House von Valancius, erected by your esteemed ancestor, Benefaz von Valancius, and handed over by Theodora von Valancius. Ever may she bask in the throne's radiance, to the Adeptus Arbitus, and the Administratum for judiciary use. Cases of special interest are heard at this palace. Sentences are carried out here also. Thus explaining the canon. Is this unique to Dargonis? I can't say I remember running into any judiciary quite like this back in the Calixis sector. Yes, your lordship. As is the case with the rest of the Imperium, worlds make do with the traditional method. The accused are not allowed to say a word, and the executions are carried out as ordered by planetary authorities or by powerful organizations of the Imperium. Only here on Dargonis does such an unusual ceremony exist. Benefaz von Valancius was known for his eccentricities. It is said that he invented this system himself and started this glorious tradition in which you are to take part today. Oh, that's actually a lot less dystopian than I was expecting. So we actually have trials. What kind of cases will I be hearing? Only the most important ones that involve the interests of the highest-born persons and prominent factions of the Imperium. Disputes between noble houses that go on for generations, conflicts between the God Emperor's servants who are vested with authority and whose disagreements affect trade and security in the Protectorate, and other litigations of supreme significance. Right, so still a system that primarily benefits the elite. Yeah, that tracks. But an incremental step in the right direction, I suppose. At least as per Val's iconoclastic or benevolencia standards. The cases litigated at the Palace of Justice, quite literally, concern matters of life and death. In such instances, there's always a guilty party whose lies, connivances, or negligence have caused damage to the Protectorate. The task of the judge is to establish guilt and pass a stern sentence, as order cannot be imposed without these, or without summary execution. Okay? I mean, I'm not in a rush to execute anyone, but we'll see if someone actually deserves it. Please, follow me. Inscribia Voltur's dreary, vox-amplified voice carries across the hall. The court will now hear case DP 1453/2, the doleful host against the astropathic choir of Dargonis. Representatives for the parties will present their arguments following standard procedure. A woman with lines of scripture all over her skin folds her arms into an aquila. My name is Sister Juth, and I represent the doleful host. O God Emperor's anointed one, we came upon a group of heretics whose minds brimmed with the most shameless thoughts. We captured them and tortured them as befits their transgressions. From what we were able to discern from their wailing and screaming, the head of the astropathic choir is plotting to betray House von Valancius. No one is a liar when flame is caressing their flesh. The doleful host surrounded the choir building and demanded that the heretic be handed over. It was solely out of respect for the Anointed One that we refrained from burning down the wayward heretic's den on the spot. However, say but the word, and we shall take him, that he may undergo a righteous cleansing. The arguments have been acknowledged and shall be weighed on the scales of justice. The representative will retreat to the Chapel of Patience to await the verdict. The gaunt man, dressed in astropath's robes, is standing tall, but his voice trembles with fury. I am Master Anhelio. I represent the Dargonis Astropathic Choir. These insidious and ignorant people are passing off their victims' ravings as truth. Your lordship, people will say anything under torture just to make the agony stop. We have served House von Valancius faithfully for decades. Master Prass, the longest of all. Please, order them to stand down. The master of the court repeats the same monotonous formula, bidding the other representatives to leave the courtroom. What's going on with the giant scales? Are we actually weighing their testimony? The scales of justice are a sacred relic installed as a testament to the alliance between the von Valancius dynasty on one side and the Adeptus Arbitus and the Administratum on the other. Legends say ancient machine spirits dwell within the relic. The scales of justice are only used on extraordinary occasions, when an intervention from the rogue trader is necessary. Ceremony dictates that items symbolizing the party's arguments be placed on the scales, and once the verdict is announced, the machine spirits weigh the decision made and show either affirmation or rejection through the position of the scales. However, there has never been an occurrence where the rogue trader and the spirits of the scales were divided on a verdict. So basically, judicial theater. It is highly unlikely that such an artifact actually exists. Judging by the design of this device, it is nothing more than a set of regular, albeit enormous and masterfully crafted, weighted scales, devoid of machine spirits of any kind. Someone must be secretly manipulating the plates in order to add greater profoundness to the rogue trader's words. Yeah, that tracks. So, results are not, in fact, to scale. You know what, as miraculous as that device might be, I'd like to bring the petitioners back in, perhaps ask them a few more questions. Again? I'm afraid they have already said what they had to say and are humbly awaiting their fate. Whatever questions you have, you may pose to me. Cool, yes, I do enjoy having everything filtered through you. An unbiased interpreter of fact. Alright, well, what details can you tell me about this conflict? As the prefect leans toward you, you get a whiff of ink and candle wax. The doleful host is a respected cult of the God Emperor. The Adeptus Ministorum has deemed them to be paragons of virtue, who combat every manner of heresies, and has enlisted their aid in various conflicts. Naturally, the Ecclesiarchy stops short of counting them among its warriors, but it uses them in very similar ways. The Astropathic Choir hardly needs an introduction. They are some of the most valuable servants of the Imperium, without whom any and all communication between your worlds would collapse. The Dargonis Choir took horrific casualties in the recent major warp storm. Master Prass made an enormous effort to at least partially restore communication. While we may not have proof of his innocence, Prass's dedication to his duty is beyond a doubt. The old woman locks her shriveled fingers together. As you can see, this is an intricate situation. Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring them back in. You see clearly now that no matter what decision you make, it will backfire on you. However, there is a way to benefit from this. Allow the host to dispense their vigilante justice, then accuse the fanatics of violating an ancient agreement that forbade the Ecclesiarchy from having its own army, and proceed to confiscate the host's property. Okay. That is certainly an option, though it would mean consigning the head of our Dargonis choir to death. Vigdis, could you check with Master Zachary? See if he has any thoughts on the Dargonis choir and its current leader, Master Prass.
At once, Lord Captain.
The Palace of Justice falls silent for several minutes, until Vigdis's voice returns.
Choir Master Wise has known Master Prass for quite a long time. He has made a very measured statement to the effect that, for some time now, the mental images conveyed by Prass have taken on a shade of profound anxiety, and have become more aloof and detached overall. Zachary Wise attributes this to Prass's horrific experience during the warp storm, but he is less than completely sure, as there is still something that sets the Dargonis Choir Master's messages apart from those of his fellow survivors.
Right, so concerning but not conclusive. And what say my advisors? Though I will say, now that I know how this works, I kind of wish I'd brought Adira. Having a psyker of our own on hand would have probably helped. Though we do at least have Cass. And, Kibbles. Lord Captain, without a choir master, the power of Dargonis' astropaths would be significantly diminished. Unless a worthy replacement is found for Master Prass, he cannot be executed. The Seneschal frowns. There is a quarter world that owes us an old debt which can be repaid with a seasoned astropath. We can make the request, although it would leave the planet in question with barely any means of communication. Both parties have shown disrespect for the Imperium's authority. The doleful host is engaging in mob justice, and the defendant did not even deign to stand trial in person. Sentence them both to death. That would be the optimal outcome. I mean, I don't know about that, Solo. I'm not going to pretend I'm happy about how this played out, but I feel like killing everyone might be a bit excessive? Not at all. Such a verdict will remind your subjects that only the rogue traitor has the right to administer justice. Besides, if you take the host's side, it will inspire new self-proclaimed executioners. And if you absolve the astropath and he turns out to have been guilty after all, other heretics will feel safe to act with impunity. That is why I advise you to be stern. The Lex is on your side. Oh, interesting. You know what, Solo? I might have been a bit quick to dismiss your opinion. I'm probably not going to kill them both, but that is more nuanced than I initially gave you credit for. Inscribia, I know it's not the way you said we do things, but I really do feel like in this particular case, it would behoove us to bring Master Prass here. The prefect's dry fingers pressed down on the runes on her data slate. As I thought, I deeply regret to inform you that said further investigation is impossible. The host fighters are already breaking down the doors of the choir. Delaying the decision will lead to uncontrollable consequences. Okay, well that makes me think that the doleful host is very much overstepping. Very well, I guess I'd best pass judgment then. As you wish, your lordship. Who is to face the death penalty? Well, I'm leaning towards the doleful host, but let's see our actual effects here. Executing and replacing Prass is plus efficiency. Okay. So that right there does imply that there is some sort of problem with Master Prass. Not necessarily treachery, but definitely something. Killing both is plus security. Interesting. And then that's the one we came up with ourselves, to let them execute him, but then also punish the doleful host for militarizing. Whereas doing nothing is -4 to security and efficiency. right, well, just the rewards alone certainly do seem to imply there is something going on with Master Prass. Master Zachary did also imply there was something wrong, so although it's not conclusive, I think that's the best way to go. While I can understand Sister Juth's concerns, I do not appreciate the way that she or the doleful host went about acting on them without my prior authorization. I will allow them to complete their current operation, but only with the understanding that the doleful host has, in essence, become a minor army of the Ecclesiarchy, and thus must be immediately dissolved afterwards, their assets seized, their members exiled. Does she agree to those terms? Spoken like a true heir to Lady Theodora, who could squeeze gold out of a rock. Sister Juth would never recant her statement. She will have no choice but to accept your conditions. Nice. That's like 1,700 Drusian rep. Also 200 Explorator. The Prefect proceeds matter-of-factly to the next scroll. The court will now hear petition CR 1547/33, restated. The petitioner is Cardinal Envelas. Your arguments, please, Cardinal. A gaunt man raises his bloodshot eyes at you. For a moment, all sounds cease. Even the scratching of the countless servo skulls quells. The man's gaze is full of a pain so strong and undiluted that your breath seizes in your throat. I am impure, O Emperor's anointed one. I am beset by impure thoughts, but no one believes my confessions. I have been giving away the treasures I possess only for people to bring me more. Worse still is the knowledge that I am leading people astray. They look at me and believe a state of perfect grace is attainable, while I am very tired. The Cardinal blinks away a tear and continues. But most terrible of all is that my brethren, the preachers of the Coronis Expanse, see me as a holy man. Their delusion has been so persistent that they sent a petition to Holy Terra, asking that I be made a saint. That was when I became firm in my decision to submit to torture in front of my congregation, thus reminding them that no holiness exists unless bestowed as a gift by the God Emperor. Even clerics of my rank can and must repent, thus becoming more pure every day. Please allow me to undergo mortal torture in his name, in front of my parishioners. I'm sorry, are you asking me for permission to be tortured to death? That is correct. In addition, he insists on your subjects bearing witness to it, as a lesson to them, so to speak. To refuse a cardinal is impious in itself, but to execute one who is a saint in all but name... Yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, big dog. You devise an elegant rendering of the sentence, one that will convince everyone that you are in the right, and save you from being branded a saint killer. All you must do is accuse the Cardinal of intending to murder an all but canonized individual. Okay, you know what, that's actually kind of fantastic. But what say my advisors?
Situation analysis complete. Let the paradox cease. Let functionality triumph. Suggestion. Use the unit Cardinal Envelas's organic remains to construct a servo skull herald and place it in an automated chapel. The status of sainthood will be extended to the liturgical mechanism.
No, I think I like the other thing better. The blood-spun web is knowledgeable in ways to torment one's flesh without going to the undying one before due time. Damen, allow us to help Cardinal Anvilis attain enlightenment and experience the purity of a near-death state. Undergoing our rite should make him realize it is not in his gift to sever his own thread. Interesting. Okay. That one is a maybe. According to the Lex Imperialis, a candidate saint may personally challenge their sainting by petitioning the Ecclesiarch on Holy Terra. Sidestepping the head of the Imperial cult is a violation of the Emperor's law. Since astropathic communication with the rest of the Imperium has been disrupted, I propose to put Cardinal Anvilis on a ship that crosses the Maw, so that he can submit his request with every formality observed. Alright, Solo, I think I see where you're going with this, but wouldn't that just be certain death? The Maw is closed. That does nothing to diminish the stipulations of the Lex Imperialis. Besides, following the letter of the law absolves you of the necessity of tainting your hands with the blood of a potential saint. Either the Cardinal will cross the Maw, thus proving his sainthood, or he will perish if the Emperor wills it. As you can see, the Lex Imperialis has all the answers. I mean, you are technically correct. Some might say the best kind of correct. But I think I still like my thing more. Or possibly Kibble's thing. I mean, Kibble's thing is the only one that would potentially leave him alive. Aside from just saying no, which is also an option. Alright, I think I'm ready to make my decision. Attention! The rogue trader speaks. Okay, so Cabela's thing grants +1 complacency. Pascal's thing grants minor goods. Solomorn's thing grants security. That's weird. Allowing it or disallowing it does nothing. And my clever thing grants efficiency. Man, now I really wish some of our other companions were here. I'd love to see what else they might suggest, since it does seem like there are a number of options that are locked, unless you have a specific companion with you. But with the options that are currently laid out before us, I feel like Val would probably lean Kibbles. It's the option that kind of gives him what he wants, but also theoretically leaves him alive and better for the experience, whilst simultaneously, I assume, sparing my subjects from the horror of watching a man get tortured to death. I believe the Vizier of the Bloodspun Web has suggested a viable alternative. He'll spend some time with the Bloodspun Web, see if that perhaps changes his perspective. The old woman chews her lips anxiously. That grants the request only in part, but... She glances over quickly at Cabela. You are probably the only one who believes the Cardinal will survive the Death Cult's ordeal. If everything happens as you envision it, the Cardinal will back down from his intention, and his flock will not be bereft of their saint. I mean, look, I hear where you're coming from. Trust me, if this had been back in Act 2, I probably would not have trusted her with it. But I've really come around on her since then. The rogue trader has made his will clear. Cardinal Anvilis will leave the Palace of Justice and accept his fate. Let us move on to the last case for today. The court will now hear case DP 1646/7, Lady Mollis Secundus against the late Lord Mollis. Lord Mollis being deceased, he will be represented by his progeny, Agartha and Zillis Mollis. Representatives for the parties will present their arguments following standard procedure. Your Lordship, I am Lady Mollis Secundus. Only 8 cycles ago, a man broke into my house posing as my husband, the late Lord Mollis. Contrary to what I know, he denies that he was killed by pirates. Instead, he purportedly survived, thanks to the God Emperor's providence. However, I hold here his death certificate issued by the Administratum, which clearly states that my husband passed away. I demand that this fraud be executed. The woman belligerently waves around a scroll in which the words, "Declared dead," are clearly visible. The arguments are acknowledged and shall be weighed on the scales of justice. The representatives will retreat to the Chapel of Patience to await the verdict. Your Lordship, our father did survive. He really was captured by pirates, who were going to demand a ransom, but the Imperial Navy managed to board the ship and rescue him. After he went missing, our mother, Lady Mollis, arranged for a death certificate before we received the good news. Now we are in the humiliating position of having to prove that our father is alive, while our mother is living with her new husband, Lord Secundus, and has taken over our family business. We implore you to restore Lord Mollis to his life and name. He is humbly awaiting your decision in the Chapel of Patience. All arguments have been acknowledged. Let the rogue trader's verdict be delivered. Wait, so I can't actually hear testimony directly from Lord Mollis? Wouldn't be the first time I've talked to a dead man. The prefect plays a vox recording on one of the servo skulls. The soft voice is interspersed with static, but you are able to make out the words. I am Mollis. When the pirates captured me, I thought I was doomed, but fate proved to be more gracious than that. I hurried home, only to my own house by my servants, and learned that Lady Mollis had already had me declared dead and married Lord Secundus. She'd also taken control of our everything. Agartha and Zillis have recognized me. I'm losing my mind. What exactly is the Mollis family business? The prefect turns on one of her countless status lights. The Mollis family manufactures nutritional rations. They supply the Astra Militarum as well as worlds that have no food production of their own. With the Lord at the helm, they covered the needs of 3 regiments and 5 worlds. Now it is 5 regiments and 12 worlds. One might say Lady Mollis Secundus has done much better than her husband did. Lady Mollis Secundus's talents are self-evident. She could easily boost production on any planet. What might be called her promotion under the guise of punishment would bring tangible benefits. You just so happen to think of several backwater worlds that have good potential but lack the capable stewardship to match it. A certain feudal world springs to mind. Though that's not actually one of ours, so maybe not. Also, maybe not a great idea to put her on a planet with Thesserdium. She does seem the scheming sort. I can't help but notice that Lady Secundus certainly wasted no time in securing her husband's death certificate or in getting remarried. One might almost think she had the documentation ready to go before he had even disappeared. A loose description of the events, and yet one that is remarkably close to the truth. Surely you do not think that Lady Mollis Secundus herself orchestrated her husband's kidnapping? Although one might say you are an expert on such incidents. That I am, on both counts. What say my advisors? This is a complicated situation, but Lady Mollis Secundus was acting in the Imperium's interests. She had shouldered the duty of care for the family business and was in no position to wallow in her grief for cycles upon cycles. Cassia throws back her shoulders and says in a dignified voice, "A marriage between people of noble birth is a union of two servants of the Emperor. Duty toward the Imperium is at the heart of that union. If there comes a long period of time when one of the spouses is unable to fulfill their obligations, the marriage loses its meaning. If you could codify this understanding in law, that would help resolve this situation." Essentially introducing divorce. Interesting. If Lady Mollis Secundus is right, then her children are the impostor's accomplices and are guilty of defaming the authenticity of the Administratum documents. Now Solomorn has enough sang-froid in him for a regiment. Let the woman know that her heirs must face the same fate as the criminal, for so stipulates the Emperor's law. Ooh, pulling a King Solomon. Very apt, Solomorn. Though also a very risky play, because she may very well throw her children under the bus. Though, then again, even if she does, that doesn't necessarily mean we're ruling in her favor. The Proctor makes a good point. Best to, let the lady know about this new complication. Clear the airs, so to speak, before things go any further. As you wish. The prefect's dry fingers tap quickly on her data slate. Soon afterward, she looks up from the vid screen and says in a colorless voice, "Lady Mollis Secundus has confessed to bribing an Administratum official and is pleading for her offspring to be spared." Solo, buddy, I've got to say, you continue to impress. I haven't necessarily used all your suggestions, but still. Right then. One side has pled guilty, so I guess the only thing left is to make it official. All will be silent. What is your decision, your lordship? Well, let's see. Cassia's thing is an interesting option, but I don't think really ideal for this specific scenario. Essentially exiling / promoting Lady Secundus. That grants +3 profit factor. Also restores Lord Mollis to being recognized as alive. Whereas Cassia's thing increases security, I guess by cutting down on the number of convenient accidents amongst loveless couples. I mean, being able to divorce is something that people should be able to do. But Lady Mollis also pretty clearly tried to get her husband killed, and then did it again right here, right now, and only backed down when she realized it would extend to her children as well. So she does need to be punished, and just taking the business away from her I don't think is enough. Which does lean me towards the other one. Exile promotion. The only thing I'm not crazy about on that one is that it doesn't really make it clear whether Lord Mollis gets his business back. I'm not sure if we're giving it to Lady Mollis as part of her exile, or if we're essentially helping her establish a new business as part of her sentence. I hereby accept Lady Mollis Secundus's guilty plea and grant her request for mercy. She will not be put to death, but will instead use her talents towards a new venture to support the supply infrastructure of some of our more remote worlds. As for Lord Mollis, he will be declared alive and all of his holdings returned. Don't really care what happens to Lord Secundus. He can go with his wife, or he can stay. I suspect he'll stay. Though if I were him, I'd be wary of pirates moving forward. Lady Mullis Secundus will depart for her place of exile before today ends. Arbitrators, carry out the sentence. As the last attendants leave the courtroom, the prefect turns to you with a delighted expression. Lady Theodora held court sessions like this to strengthen her subjects' faith in the Lex Imperialis and their fear of breaching it. A most useful practice, wouldn't you agree? I mean, I suppose it really depends on how you handle the rulings. Honestly, I really wouldn't mind doing more. So that's it then? Just the 3? You said we had a considerable backlog. Surely we've got a few more rattling around somewhere. Your enthusiasm is laudable, but as I'm sure you understand, any manner of procedure requires prior registration, which in turn involves filling out official forms and signing regulation-approved documents. It is for this reason that I am, alas, unable to honor your request. With your permission, I will now return to my duties. Thank you. Oh, nice. And we also get to poke around a bit. A sacred symbol of the Imperium's justice, implacable and unsparing. I don't know. I feel like I spared an awful lot of people. The cogitator is filled with data on the workings of the Palace of Justice, listing things such as the names of servants and details of executions. The number of people entering the building is always greater than that of those leaving it. Huh. I wonder why that one's got an actual interaction symbol as opposed to the usual perception symbol. Part of a puzzle, perhaps?
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
I am registering unknown modifications made to the melter weapon. I insist on requisitioning this object for the purpose of ascertaining the permissibility of its configuration.
They would probably just send you to the archives, digging up records on the tech priest who installed the weapon. Do you have a decade of your life to spare, Pascal?
Alright, hold on, let me scroll back. The might of the Imperium's justice in the form of a massive melta weapon. The roaring torrents of flame it generates leave criminals without a single chance. Did you hear? Lord Avery's son has been sentenced to 30 years of hard labor. How dreadful! And after all the entreaties of his family. It is true what they say. An arbitrator has no heart. Nor honor. They are driven not by nobility, but by articles memorized without thought. If I were them, I would execute the scoundrel on the spot and be done with it. They do not shy away from execution, but what kind of punishment is that? I wish they would bring back public torture. That would be a sight for sore eyes. I mean, I feel like we could maybe find, like, a middle ground. Also, I would disagree with that assessment of arbitrators, or at least our arbitrator. Again, I was actually very genuinely impressed how deftly Solomorn came up with various technicalities during the trials. It's just his bad luck that I'm also brilliant. Excerpts from the Lex Stargonis, with addenda. The changes personally signed by Theodora von Valancius reflect the current situation in the Coronis Expanse. To appropriate another's possessions is a transgression against his will, for he has divided all of humanity into those who are worthy of having said possessions, and those who are not. The cogitator is filled with the personal data of the executed. All their possessions have been meticulously accounted for and deposited in the storerooms of the administratum. Ooh, certainly wouldn't mind getting access to that. Perhaps that is what our puzzle will point us towards. All the more reason to keep poking around, as are the various unattended goods. These monumental scales barely fit inside the Palace of Justice. They were crammed into the hall after the Adeptus Arbitus arrived. Old complaint. This time-worn piece of paper bears a petition of some sort. You manage to make out only a fragment. Then, he treacherously intruded upon the ancestral territories of House Goprok and wrought destruction therein. The list of damages is headed by, but not limited to, 3 servitors of ancient make, 5 armored vehicles, and 10 cogitators whose machine spirits are beyond recovery. Consequently, we demand that House Sourback be penalized for an amount thricely covering the damage inflicted. In support of our accusation, we provide the following. Yeah, just business as usual for the nobles of Dargonis. I think we're pretty much done with them. To kill with the intent of enriching oneself is a crime. To kill for a righteous cause is a deed to be honored and exalted. Okay, Glado was definitely barking right at this door. I'm gonna guess that's our storeroom. Lying is a transgression that burdens the soul of the one who commits it. Lying to a superior is a crime against the Imperium itself, for it disrupts its blessed structure. Financial reports. The procurement data does not match up with the spending, but this has been gracefully covered up by the way of a shrinkage column. Interesting. Sounds like misappropriation of funds. Oh, hello. What have we here? Ah, second steel triad, right? Yeah, we've already got one of those. Mid-tier shield, sadly already outdated. But even if it wasn't, honestly, the odds of having a party that could take full advantage of it, i.e. a 3-man shield wall, are pretty slim, and even if you did do that, the actual benefits are pretty tame. But hey, it's a quarter stack of armor. That's, 32.5 Drusian rep. As you can see, you have failed to fill out Form 12 Beta/3, which means your claim will not be directed to the governor, but to his office, which in turn... You expect me, the proprietor of 3 agri-complexes, to pore over the paperwork, while some worm lectures me on what I should do? I will crush you like the bug you are! The Administratum operates under strict adherence to the rules. If you kill me, you will have to fill out Form 24 Gamma/7 to account for the damage you have caused to Administratum property. Cute. Also, I think they mixed up. I think they mixed up the names of those 2 NPCs.
Always keep your eye on the price.
Alright, folks, I'm still trying to figure out if there is, in fact, a puzzle around here somewhere. It feels like there is, but we didn't stumble across anything obvious. So, that said, I guess this is a good place to call it. we'll hit the pause button for now. We'll give this place another thorough going over. And we'll pick up here next time. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Arrow Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you can even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Do you have a decade of your life to spare?